Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I've noticed that there's some listeners all over the world, and I can't tell you how happy that makes me. I just feel so encouraged that there are people all over that are just hungry for truth, realism, candidness, however you want to say it. I don't know. I just love it. And I am so excited to continue growing the show, the audience, and giving you more content in this new season. So thank you for joining. Thanks for getting caught up and getting familiar with who I am and what I'm about and why I'm doing this podcast. You know, it's a new year, a new season. Trying this out to film myself. The last episode, I kind of was just testing it out. Yeah, just I was just using my phone to, essentially record myself while I was doing my normal thing that I do. And my husband, who is very, he's a professional in every sense of the word, and he was like, "No, we got to we got to get a better setup here." So you can. It has nothing with me. My husband is the expert, and I just got a lot to say. So, and he is well aware of that too. So anyway, episode 1, I think, went off without a hitch. The new season is here. It's been almost a year since the last season finished. I wasn't necessarily planning on stopping at the point that I did. I felt like I kind of needed to explain what happened a bit. We were getting a dog from my my brother and my sister-in-law, who are breeders. So they were, it kind of ended up just being like a test run, really. I appreciated them, and we called him Murphy. He was a sweet doodle. But I just realized that we really just aren't a dog family. I like other people's dogs. It's just, I don't know if it's a poodle thing or a doodle thing. I've heard a lot of things about the poodle personality. They're what does my mom call it? A Velcro dog. I'm not about that. And, I still have Velcro children, I'll say. And so having a dog be super needy and, it was stressing me out like I can't even explain. And I knew the dog was being affected by it. And it felt like the house was just a giant stress ball. And I ended up having a total meltdown to my family, to my mother and my husband and children. And I was just like, I need help. I need help with this dog. Like, I can't. I thought he was house trained. And I guess he's dog door trained, but we don't have a dog door, and we weren't going to be putting one in, anytime soon. And so I just think, it was interstate travel for the dog. He's still, still young. He's still a pup, and he's amazing, but just was not right for our family. So luckily, I think we had him about a month maybe before I was all consumed with that, and my kids returning to school. And so, podcast took a back seat to that for sure. And in the end, I felt like, well, okay, for one, my kids really, I mean, my oldest daughter and my youngest daughter really tried to help with him. And he wasn't a big dog, but I think it's still, they're just kind of not really used to that. And so they were kind of struggling with the big puppy thing. But I don't know. He wasn't that big, but I think for them it felt like he was big, and so they were nervous about him. But he really truly was so sweet. He wasn't even trying to mouth at anybody, which is like shocking. He was great, but he was having trouble with figuring out how to. He didn't want to go outside. even though that's where he needed to go in order to be able to go. I think it just was too hot for him outside. This was summertime, obviously, hottest part of the summer. And I don't know, it just kind of felt like a perfect storm. The biggest thing was I didn't feel like I really had any help from anyone with the dog. And you would think with such a big crew that, in my mind, it's going to be this, great thing with everybody. But it really felt like, my older kids kind of didn't really want to do a whole lot, or maybe they'd want to play for a little bit, but then they'd be done. And it's like, no, this dog, like, it's a lot of energy, and even just the morning routine of getting people off to school and everything, meals and stuff. It was like I had a whole nother child, right? And I realize people are probably thinking, D, but I don't know. I just pictured it going a little differently, I guess. And then the biggest thing, which was the clincher for me, I was horribly allergic to him, which he was supposed to be a hypoallergenic dog, and I think maybe there's just something off about my hormones, or I don't know what. But I'm totally allergic to dogs. And it's not just nasal allergies like, oh, take a Claritin. No, I was breaking out in full blown, like horribly itchy hives anywhere where I touched this dog. And I'm telling you, like, I was keeping him as clean as I possibly could. I was trying to be consistent with washing my hands, and of course, like I probably go overboard with washing my hands normally. Anyway, my hands and my arms, I was in bad shape. And I was like, if I'm the one taking care of this dog and I can't even pet him, it just was like, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. And as a side note, my boys loved him. But my youngest was kind of doing dumb stuff to him. I think he just was, gosh, I guess he would have still been 4 at the time. So I don't know. I just was afraid. I was afraid he was gonna, well, okay, yes, I think he could have hurt the dog, but I more was afraid that he was gonna do something to the dog that would then make the dog hurt my son. And I didn't want that. I was like, nope, this isn't the right thing, and when I say that I thought I'd learned my lesson before, I mean, I had tried to get a dog, gosh, how many years ago was that? I know I was pregnant with my youngest. So I guess that would have been over 5 years ago now. Anyway, we tried to get a dog, but it was a lab mix. And so I thought my allergies, because I was horribly allergic, I thought my allergies were just because we needed a hypoallergenic dog. Because I didn't have allergies to animals when I was little. I don't know. I just think a lot has happened with me, with my body and my hormones. I have I have allergies that I didn't have before, and I have all kinds of fun stuff. Anyway, more than you probably want to know. But anyway, that's just what happened with the dog situation. So luckily my brother and my sister-in-law were totally awesome about it. We only had him about a month, and the writing was on the wall, and I said, I got to bring him back. Luckily they had someone in the wings ready to swoop in and take him. They love him. He's been with them now. It's been I guess almost a year now. So, and they love him, and he's doing really, really well with them. So I needed to experience that to realize that we are not a pet family. I am not a pet person, I think is the biggest thing. And that doesn't mean that I don't love animals. I love animals. I do. And I've talked about this with lots of different people about it, about how it's like, well, I just don't want an animal for myself. Now, that being said, we did get a hamster. Well, we had gotten a bunch of hamsters actually, but my stepdaughter ended up taking 2 of the smaller hamsters that my daughters had. She ended up taking those to her mother's house, and they're doing great there because my stepdaughter just wasn't here with us a whole lot. She's been with her mother a lot more more recently in the past couple of years. And so she wasn't getting to see the hamsters as much. After however many months, it was down to one of my daughters. Let's see, one of my daughters decided to return hers to the pet shop. She didn't have her very long. And then my other daughter kind of got burnt out and just was like, I'm done. And so, so my stepdaughter took took two of the dwarf hamsters that they had to her mother's, and then we were just down to sweet little Bernie, who is our male. I don't know what he is. I guess he's a fancy hamster. Anyway, he's awesome. We love him. And I really don't hold him much. I will a little bit, but I'm really careful to, wash up real good afterward and stuff. So I haven't had any kind of a reaction to him. He doesn't get to roam in our house or anything like that. And the kids it comes and goes. Sometimes they want to interact with him and sometimes they don't. But I think a hamster ends up working out perfectly for us because he kind of, he's nocturnal, right? He's like my teenagers. He's like this nocturnal animal that just wants to stay in his castle. He's got a little castle in his terrarium we've got set up for him. He kind of just wants to be in there forever, it seems. We're all like, is he still alive? And then eventually he'll come out, for food and water, but it's mostly at night, right? And so then my teenagers, when they happen to emerge from their castles, then they actually will, interact with him. So he's kind of like the perfect pet for our family. He's extremely low maintenance, and he, like I said, he only comes out, and he doesn't really want us to be doing a whole lot with him. It's like the opposite of a dog, and it's even less work than a cat, right? And it's super cheap too, right? So I don't know. People are probably rolling their eyes, and they're like, "Okay, enough about your pet situation." But it just tickles me. But after all that, we just realized it was back to our original sweet Bernie. What did we call him? Theodorus Bernstein or something. Anyway, we call him Bernie. Anyway, so that was a little bit of explanation about what happened, since I kind of left things hanging about the dog and pets. Basically, I've just been busy over the school year. I've been doing homeschooling essentially with my little boys. It's an online schooling program. We love it. We absolutely love it. It's awesome. And my older kids, some of them are taking advantage of using this online public charter program because it's very, very well done for an online school. And so we just love it. And so my kids, a couple of my kids are going to be able to take advantage of using that online program for their core classes. And then they have their elective courses with an actual, like a career prep type program that they're doing at a campus. So really, in my opinion, this, way that we're doing schooling, each one of my kids is really figuring out what works the best for them. Each one is saying, like my oldest, my son, he's got lots of friends at school and he just loves being at school all day. I mean, I don't know if he loves it. I guess I shouldn't say that, but he gets to see his friends. And I think because he's been in the traditional school system for so long, he's going to be starting his senior year now. I think it's just more familiar for him to just do the regular, daily grind where you're there for 7 hours a day. My daughters, on the other hand, are not as interested in that, and they were getting super duper burnt out. And especially, one of my daughters in particular, my second oldest. And so so it works out really well for her. Incidentally, in the fall, she will be starting a medical program at that career program school. But she'll still be able to do her core classes online. And then my oldest daughter is going to be starting an aesthetics program there, but she'll still be doing her core classes with the online program as well. And they just love it. It's great. And so, you get a little bit of socialization, right, that way through the school, but it's not so much where they are just burnt out, right? And going and I think, in my opinion, going to a campus and being around like-minded kids who have the same interests as you, right? They've handpicked this career. Gosh, I keep messing up the word, but basically it's like you graduate with a not a degree, but a certificate of some sort. So it really does make it so that you could get into your chosen field, on a very base level. Of course, you get into your chosen field right straight out the gate, straight out of high school. I just think it's awesome. It's a version ish of trade schools, right? It's a way for these kids. I mean, there is a fee that you do end up paying, depending on what program you do and what supplies you need and that sort of thing. But essentially, because it's a public charter, it is free. As free as schooling goes. Obviously, we're all still paying taxes that goes toward the schools. But anyway, so just to give a recap there, just an overview of what we've been doing this past school year. And so it's been a ride. It's been a bit of a ride, and I was exhausted by the time the school year ended. But it didn't end there for some of my kids, because my three oldest wanted to get ahead in their programs, and so all three of them have been doing summer school. But because they're all pretty independent and very responsible, they're just wonderful kids, and so I really haven't had to do a whole lot. Just making sure that they have what they need, and if they need any support from me, and obviously I'm facilitating between them and the school and the representatives, but they're doing it all online, so it's just it's real low key, doing it here at home. Anyway, I'm loving it. This is great, and the rest of my kids are getting a nice little break, having a really fun summer break. We're having a great summer. It's been awesome. And especially now after, what I mentioned in the last episode about, my older kids having a little bit of a drama. Everybody seems to have really kind of calmed down a bit. My oldest daughter, she was stressing out quite a bit, and she was starting to have some breakouts on her face, which is not like her. Normally her skin is wonderful and clear, and she takes very good care of her skin. She uses amazing products. That's why she's going into aesthetics. She's very interested in health and beauty. She's been trying to adjust her diet and adjust her sleep schedule a bit to try and address it, but I noticed that her skin was already starting to clear up, and I mentioned it to her, and she said thank you, and I just said, what all do you think contributed to it? And so we got to talking about those few things, but I said, but you seem a lot less stressed now. And it's funny. It doesn't matter what your ailments are, what your symptoms are, anything you look up online, there's always that added cause in there. Sometimes it's at the bottom. It says, oh, stress. This could still be stress induced. And so I had said that to her, that I thought, with her being, seeming less stressed about this stuff she was dealing with her father, getting that, off her back a bit seemed to, cause her skin literally to calm down. A couple of things that has been happening, I wanted to explain. I know I've explained some of the struggles that I've had with dealing with the step situation with my stepdaughter and her mother, and we have to make things we have to make things work as best we can, and sometimes it's just okay, just for now let's do this, or if this works, great. If it doesn't, then we'll try something else, or things are working out, but then it almost seems like people might be tempted to revert to things that we were doing before, and I'm having to kind of say, if things, what do they say, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. And so for me, I feel like why would I go back to the way things were if it wasn't working, and if what we've been doing now is working, why would we change that, right? And so, but I think so I do think that there has been some improvement, just purely because of the new arrangement that we've had with my stepdaughter, just plain being with her mother more, and having her mother's home be her home base. I really think that's been a really good thing. She's also been in therapy, which I think has been really helpful to her. I tried to not pry. I actually don't know if my stepdaughter even knows that I'm aware of this. I guess but she has mentioned it to my daughters, her stepsisters. So I figure, okay, well, maybe at some point I would get a chance to, ask her how the therapy is going. My older children have tried therapy. Unfortunately, I wasn't the one that was managing it. if you want to say it that way. I wasn't picking the therapist. I wasn't in attendance. I was, this was all, it was all essentially being forced on my kids by their father and their father's family, and using like school psychologists, and which I think can be a good thing. It can, but just like with anything, you find who is a good fit for you. Doctor, or therapist, or whatever it is, right? They're not all created equal, and you either click with someone or you don't. And when it comes to a therapist or a psychologist, it's kind of important that you click with them, I think. And I think with my kids, I think they would express things and things weren't being addressed, or they would express things and nothing was changing, nothing was happening. So it's like, if they're going to the therapist and they're saying, this is what's happening in my father's home, nothing was happening, right? It wasn't like I could then go to court and take that evidence and go to court and say, look, my kids are dying to live with me. It's not a healthy situation for them living with their father. And I felt like nobody wanted to help me. I couldn't get anyone to cooperate. And you have to, I think I've mentioned this before, you got to hire a court evaluator, which is a psychologist, and they go and they interview both parents, and they interview the kids, and they look at your house and their house, and they do all this stuff, and you got to pay them tens of thousands of dollars, not joking. And then they go to the judge and they give their report to the judge. And in the end, you have no idea what the evaluator is going to say, how they're going to side with you. You have no idea what your children are going to end up saying to the court evaluator and how that's going to go, right? There's no guarantee that they're going to be honest, or maybe, say something that might hurt the case, or however you are hoping it's going to go, and you end up spending a lot of money and a lot of time. I mean, we're talking months, right? Everything with the court system takes forever. It's brutal. It's so expensive, and it takes so long. And in the end, the only people who get anything out of it, I'm convinced, are the judges and the lawyers, because they're making bank, right? And in the end, I'm the loser. The other parent is the loser. The kids are the losers. I mean, really, truly, that's how I feel about it. So, anytime anything comes up, anyone I know, anyone I hear about, I am adamant that you handle things as carefully as you possibly can before you sign anything, for one, because once you sign that decree and it gets filed at the court, it is almost impossible to get it changed. And you got to have some money. You got to have some money saved up, because you got to pay the lawyers to help you draft up everything. And heaven forbid you can't agree on stuff when you're just drafting up the paperwork. My goodness. And here I am. I'm just wanting things to be, peaceful. And I'm wanting things to just be, nice. But I can't control the other party. I couldn't control what happened. And the fact is, he was absolutely determined to destroy me. And he really could have, if the Lord hadn't helped me the way he did and sent me earthly angels. It could have been so bad. Anyway, now I totally got off on a tangent, so I sincerely apologize about that. Probably in the next episode, I will discuss a little bit more about what kind of went down with my kids and that infamous phone call that they had with their father on Father's Day. Just because I think it's important for those that are listening, for the purpose of kind of getting a baseline when it comes to dealing with divorce and custody, and dealing with an ex that is a narcissist. It seems to be a really popular thing right now. And I don't mean to seem like I'm jumping on that bandwagon, because I'm truly not. I'm not a licensed psychologist. I cannot diagnose anyone. All I know is that you see enough stuff, you talk to enough people, and you kind of start to put the pieces together, and you're like, there's something wrong here. This person has some serious mental illness. how do I manage it? How do I handle it? And even before I could maybe put a label to it, I was getting help from the Lord to deal with him in ways that I now see are specific instructions for dealing with a narcissistic ex. So kind of interesting that way, right? I mean, just goes to show that when you turn to the Lord, I mean, he can help you with anything. He can guide you in any way. I can't stress that enough. You need the Lord in your life, absolutely. So, with it being the 4th of July, yes, love it. I love it. I love the 4th of July. I love that it's Independence Day. I love celebrating. I love everything surrounding it. People make fun of Americans. We love our guns. We love our fireworks. We love justice, freedom. I love it, right? That I'm all about all of that. But those things are fun or, funny, whatever. Make a lot of jokes about that. But for me, because of how firm I am in my beliefs in the gospel of Jesus Christ, just the simple fact that the United States of America is a Christian nation founded on Christian values, and we have freedom of religion here. And I wanted to kind of say a few things about that, why I love living here, why I love this country. I love my freedoms. I feel like things are kind of a little sketchy in our country right now. I'm not going to be honest. I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to lie, and I'm going to be honest. That's how my brain's working these days. Oh my goodness gracious. Okay. So here's a little funny little tidbit. When I was doing a search on the website for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I was doing a search, and I pretty much just typed in America. I think that's all I typed in. Anyway, and it brought up all of these general conference talks from 1975, 1976. Anyway, I thought that was really interesting. And one that I read, so I was reading through everything that was pulling up, and just lots of really great stuff. I mean, I would highly recommend looking that up, going to lds.org, or if you have the app on your phone, excuse me. There's lots of really great talks if you just type in America. So there's a talk entitled But Watchmen, What of the Night? October 1975. This talk was by Bishop Vaughn J. Featherstone. So I'm just going to read this little story he tells. Dr. Kenneth McFarland, a great nonpartisan national patriot, gave a speech entitled Selling America to Americans. He told about a young soldier who returned from Vietnam. In a very serious talk with his parents, the young soldier asked if they loved America. He asked how they felt about this great and glorious nation. Both mother and father got a little teary-eyed and said that they loved this country dearly, that it was more precious to them than their own life. Quote, "Why didn't you tell me that when I was growing up?" he said. He went on further. "I never heard you once say that you loved America. You never taught me to love it. I can't tell you what an ungrateful pup I have been. I had to go to Vietnam to find out what the United States of America is all about. I would gladly lay down my life for it. I would have given anything to know how you felt about it when I was growing up." That was so powerful to me. It's like making me tear up just reading that. And I realized, I know I've expressed these kinds of things to my children. I don't know, though. I mean, maybe that's something that I need to ask them. Do you know how much I love this country? I've been really harping on them. I don't know. Maybe it was the fallout from COVID, but my kids just weren't even aware of certain things. Like, we're looking at a map of our country, and they weren't even totally aware of the states and the capital cities of each state and counties, and just there were all these things, and they just aren't even familiar really with with the how many other countries there are in our world, and anyway, and I was stunned, and I think they got a little defensive at first. And I was like, I'm not ragging on you. I'm shocked, like, that some of you who are, you know, in middle school or junior high, whatever you want to call it, that you don't know some of these things. But I'm just thinking, are they not teaching this stuff in the schools? Like, hello, they don't even know how to read a map. Anyway, I feel like I'm pretty pumped up about this country, and I feel like I have expressed that to my children. But reading that little blurb, I was like, okay, I really need to do a much better job. One thing that I wanted to share was the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has published articles of faith, and those are found in it's in the last section of what is called the Pearl of Great Price. And there's a lot of really awesome content in the Pearl of Great Price. But I love the Articles of Faith. And I'm just going to read the 11th Article of Faith first, which says, "We claim the privilege of worshiping Almighty God according to the dictates of our own conscience, and allow all men the same privilege. Let them worship how, where, or what they may." It's a very, very solid foundation to our belief system, and one key point of why our religion was established here in the United States. It was such a key thing. Obviously, this church has grown exponentially, but it started out here because that was a very big thing for the start of our country, to have freedom of religion. I also like the 13th Article of Faith. It says, "We believe in being honest, true, chaste, benevolent, virtuous, and in doing good to all men. Indeed, we may say that we follow the admonition of Paul. We believe all things, we hope all things, we have endured many things, and hope to be able to endure all things. If there's anything virtuous, lovely, or of good report, or praiseworthy, we seek after these things." Just love that. That was the final Article of Faith. I wanted to read a verse from 3rd Nephi. So the third book of Nephi, chapter 21, verse 4. "For it is wisdom in the Father," meaning our Heavenly Father, "that they should be established in this land and be set up as a free people by the power of the Father, that these things might come forth from them unto a remnant of your seed, that the covenant of the Father may be fulfilled, which he hath covenanted with his people, O house of Israel." There was a promise. There was a promise of what was going to happen here in the Americas, and it happened. And then in 2nd Nephi, the second book of Nephi, chapter 10, verses 11 through 14, it says, "And this land shall be a land of liberty unto the Gentiles, and there shall be no kings upon the land who shall raise up unto the Gentiles. And I will fortify this land against all other nations, and he that fighteth against Zion shall perish, saith God. For he that raiseth up a king against me shall perish, for I, the Lord, the King of heaven, will be their king, and I will be a light unto them forever that hear my words." I love that. I was like, yeah, that's power right there. Love it. And we are, this is a choice land. This is a protected land, but it's also a desired land. And there's a reason why, and there's a reason why we love it, and we want to protect it and not let it, go to ruin. I also wanted to share a little bit from this old General Conference talk, from October of 1979. It was a General Conference talk given by the prophet of the church at the time, President Ezra Taft Benson. The article is entitled "A Witness and a Warning." The whole article is fantastic, but I just wanted to share a couple of pieces of it that I thought were pretty poignant, even in our day. He says, "Today we are in a battle for the bodies and souls of man. It is a battle between two opposing systems, freedom and slavery, Christ and Antichrist. The struggle is more momentous than a decade ago, yet today the conventional wisdom says you must learn to live with communism and to give up your ideas about national sovereignty. Tell that to the millions, yes, the scores of millions who have met death or imprisonment under the tyranny of communism. Such would be the death knell of freedom and all we hold dear. God must ever have a free people to prosper his work and bring about Zion. I thought that was pretty telling, considering what all was going on at the time. But, it just still felt pretty poignant for this day. He also says, never before has the land of Zion appeared so vulnerable to so powerful an enemy as the Americas do at present. Does that not sound like something someone would say nowadays too? And our vulnerability is directly attributable to our loss of active faith in the God of this land, who has decreed that we must worship him or be swept off. Too many Americans have lost sight of the truth that God is our source of freedom, the lawgiver, and that personal righteousness is the most important essential to preserving our freedom. So I say with all the energy of my soul that unless we as citizens of this nation forsake our sins, political and otherwise, and return to the fundamental principles of Christianity and of constitutional government, we will lose our political liberties, our free institutions, and will stand in jeopardy before God. He goes on to say, there are some things we can do and must do at once if we are to stave off a holocaust of destruction. First, we must return to worship the God of this land, who is Jesus Christ. Second, we must awaken to a sense of our awful situations because of this secret combination, which is among us. You kind of have to be living under a rock to not be aware that there's this idea of a secret society, if you will, kind of running things and kind of trying to bring things down. People who are God-fearing and freedom-loving, and want to essentially change things in our country and make our country weak. It's devastating. We need to awaken to this realization. And so, he goes on to say we need to elect officials that are in our court, right? He says, third, we must do as the Lord commanded us by revelation in 1833. Wherefore honest men and wise men should be sought for diligently, and good men and wise men ye should observe to uphold. Otherwise, whatsoever is less than these cometh of evil. I just feel like there's a reason why everybody just feels like all politicians are crooked, and it's just hard to find an honest one. It's hard to find one that actually, upholds our Constitution. It's pretty crazy the way things are nowadays. And I just think it's interesting that here's what's being said in 1979. And here we are, however many years later, a lot of years later. Lastly, he says, we must study the inspired Constitution and become involved in the political process ourselves. Yes, absolutely. If we have no idea what our country is about, what it was founded on, and what kind of rights we actually have, and why we have an Independence Day to celebrate at all. There's a reason why we wanted to form our own country. And the Constitution is definitely worth studying and understanding, and it's definitely worth having representatives in our government who uphold the Constitution. And finally, the little bit that I wanted to share is, he says, I testify to you that God's hand has been in our destiny. I testify that freedom as we know it today is being threatened as never before in our history. I further witness that this land, the Americas, must be protected, its constitution upheld, for this is a land foreordained to be the Zion of our God. He expects us as members of this church and bearers of his priesthood to do all we can to preserve our liberty. And that made me think of the final scripture that I wanted to share. I love Captain Moroni. He is probably my favorite prophet in the Book of Mormon. And I just feel like there's people nowadays coming out of the woodwork that are like Captain Moroni, and I just think it's amazing. So this is in the book of Alma, chapter 46. I was going to read verses 12 through 14. And it came to pass that he rent his coat, and he took a piece thereof and wrote upon it, in memory of our God, our religion and freedom, and our peace, our wives, and our children. And he fastened it excuse me, I think I just spit. I don't know if you could see it. And he fastened it upon the end of a pole. Now, a little bit of context here. There was division amongst the people. There were people who wanted to follow God and continue to have things the way they were with the way their government was set up. And then there were other people that wanted to have a king and wanted things to be different. And it was really causing a lot of trouble. It was causing so much infighting amongst these people that their enemies were able to essentially cause a lot of trouble for them and were going to be able to overtake them and kill them. But because there was so much infighting going on, and that just really got me thinking about the way I feel like things are happening in our country now. I feel like people are fighting over stuff that's like, there's much more important things that we should be, engaged in and passionate about. I can't say it enough. I think, as Americans, we need to just band together. I don't care what you look like. I don't care where you come from. I don't care, what, if you love this country, if you are an American and you love this country and you want things to be great here, and then why can't we all just support each other in that and vote accordingly and run for office accordingly? Anyway, there's gonna need to be a lot to happen in the upcoming elections. I'll just say that much. He says, and he fastened on his head plate and his breastplate, so his armor and his shields, and girded on his armor about his loins. And he took the pole which had on the end thereof his rent coat. So because he had torn a piece of his coat off and had written on it, right? He called it the title of liberty, and he bowed himself to the earth, and he prayed mightily unto his God for the blessings of liberty to rest upon his brethren, so long as there should a band of Christians remain to possess the land. For thus were all the true believers of Christ who belonged to the church of God called by those who did not belong to the church. They called them Christians, just the same as it is today. So long as there should a band of Christians remain to possess the land, you better believe we're here. We're here. We aren't going anywhere, and I'm not letting my country go. And I'm going to be celebrating like nobody else today and praying for our country, praying for the leaders of our country, praying for those who are fighting for our country actively. I love you. I love all those who are representatives of Christ everywhere you go, who are representatives of America everywhere you go, those who love the Lord and love all men, all people, and want to protect this land and preserve it for our children to have this great land of freedom, land of the free, home of the brave. I was like tempted to sing the Star Spangled Banner. I won't. But I think it's good. I think it's good for people, especially that I love. There's a song, and I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. Just love that song. They always play it when they do the fireworks show, and it just stirs me up so much. I love it. So anyway, hopefully I think I've said I love it way too many times, so I apologize. But anyway, I love you all. I love this country. Happy 4th of July, wherever you are, wherever you might be celebrating this wonderful land that we enjoy. And even if you're somewhere else in the world, just know that you have an American here who loves you and thinks of you and prays for you and is so grateful that you're listening to this podcast and that you're trying to fight the good fight. All right, till next time.